Greetings, fellow visitors. This is Upgrade Terminal, a Star of Providence fancast. I'm Malachi.
And I'm Nick. Welcome back to the facility. Today is a very special episode. This is the finale of Season 1 of Upgrade Terminal, and as such, we have two very special guests with us today. First off, we have PureQuestion.
Hello.
And AlexMdle.
What's up?
As you all know, they are two of the members of Team D13, the developers for this game, and we are very excited and very grateful for the both of you to be with us here today for this episode. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
I don't want to brag, but we're definitely both in the top 5.
Agreed. And today, the topic for today's episode is mostly going to be talking about not necessarily just the development of this game, Star of Providence, but kind of the history of Team D13, the story of the members, the projects, everything that led up to this game being created. So we're going to go over a lot of old projects, not just Fraxi, but some of the other ones that came along the way. And as a brief disclaimer, for the vast majority of the history of this game, it was called Monolith, not Star of Providence. We're going to be using that name a lot for this episode. Just know that we're talking about the same game, all right? Don't worry about it. Just go with it.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
We have a lot of questions for you guys. We tried to whittle them down because we could ask questions for a very long time. But where we wanted to start is just asking you how the members of Team D13 met.
Yeah, that is a very simple question. We basically met 15 years ago in a forum for a sandbox shmup game called Fraxi.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, back then I was just drifting in the internet. I was playing a lot of Warcraft 3, and one of my friends was like, "Hey, there's this really cool game." And it was Fraxi. It was like a bunch of videos on YouTube. And I watched them and I thought, that is pretty cool. So I just joined the forum, saw a bunch of people there. And then sometime later, I believe, Pew joined. And we started collaborating, and that's how everything started.
Pretty much.
Did you both start collaborating pretty early on, or was there a long period of time where you knew of each other but didn't really interact much?
It was definitely within a few months of me finding it.
Yeah, I believe it's sometime after Pew joined and made a few of those reactor bosses that I just contacted him.
Yeah, so I just made a few things without really interacting with anyone. Mm-hmm. And then I eventually went up. I think there was an IRC channel.
Oh, yeah. Old school.
And then we started talking, and then we decided to collaborate on something. We never even finished it, but and then we just started making games together.
It just happened.
So the both of you hit it off pretty quickly then.
No, it's just literally I wrote to Pure, but hey, do you want to make some stuff? I was like, yeah, cool.
Well, a question I had, Alex, is because imagining finding someone on the internet to collaborate with, something I've done actually.
Hello.
For me, I think it takes a long time to find gain a confidence in someone that they're someone that you can collaborate with. What was it that made you feel confident in collaborating?
Well, he made some bosses and they were really cool. That's the only thing, really. I would pin it down more to luck than anything else.
I mean, there are points in your life where you're like, man, this person is doing cool stuff. I'll just ask them if we can do cool stuff together.
That is not unlike what happened, really.
Do you have a different take on it, Pure, or do you all feel pretty much the same way about it?
Pretty much, yeah. Other than, he was the one who was making cool stuff, and I was making lame stuff.
The pastures are green and all that.
The bosses are cool on the other side.
I'm thinking about it. We collaborated exactly twice, and one of them was at the very start, and one of them was at the very end, and we didn't finish either of them.
That's normal, quite frankly. Like the Fraxi times, that is something that is very difficult to understand for anyone who wasn't part of that particular community.
Mhm.
That's just how things were.
I mean, we could do a whole episode just about Fraxi in the future if need be. But the question comes about because when I do look back at Fraxi, I see a lot of bosses, but are like the creation of like one person. Like, oh, Alex made this boss and Pure did this thing. It doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of like we made this thing together, as it were.
Well, it's important to understand that Fraxi really was a big community. Like everyone, like most of the people who were active at the time are still communicating to this day.
Mm-hmm. I feel like a lot of the early beta testers were Fraxi people.
Several.
Yeah, like but before even the release, like Aquamancia, I think, is from Fraxi. Cyrock.
That's not.
No. Oh, okay.
I would say just Zaro and Aqua.
All right.
If I hope I'm not forgetting anyone. Spider, perhaps?
Well, Alex, technically, Flan.
That's okay. True. Right, because Flan didn't officially become a member of Team D13 until quite a bit later.
Yes.
Oh, speaking of which, how did you both meet Garo and Flan? Was it also pretty much the same thing? Just, oh, they're cool.
They were also both on the Fraxi forums, yes.
And they're like, how did we meet Flan?
Oh, man. Flan. How many buses do we want to throw him under?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I've heard some of this story, and it's probably a story we should tell when Flan is here.
You know what? Sure.
I don't think we can tell that story without Flan being here.
Okay, fine.
No, Flan needs to be here. Flan needs to hear it.
Okay. We'll do this for another episode.
Yeah.
Season 2 finale.
Okay. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, we'll serve Flan at a later date.
Good.
Okay, so we talked about how you all met, and like you mentioned some of these collaborations, and like, do you think you could give us like a bit of a rundown on all of the things you collaborated with over the years, not just Fraxi stuff, but all manner of projects?
Well, so after when did it start? Because it was pretty quick.
It was almost immediate, I would say.
Yeah, like we just started trying to make a bunch of games together, none of which got very far.
Oh, hey, Game Maker is a thing.
Yeah, and like I had used Game Maker a bit. I'd like prototyped a few garbage games.
Right, like Pure could actually code at that time.
Oh yeah. Alex only learned to code in like 2015, 2016.
2016, yeah. Until then, I had no idea how to program.
Wow, that's pretty close to the release date for Monolith.
Yeah.
He started trying to touch code, I would say, halfway through development for the game.
Yes, I wouldn't say that. That was pretty early, I'd say.
I guess
before that, like when we were programming Ghost, I could already code.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What prompted you to want to learn coding, Alex? Were you like, no, the enemy needs to do it this way?
Oh no, I've always wanted to be able to code. It's just relatively difficult if you don't know how to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe not. It depends.
I remember trying to bully him into it for a long time.
Yeah, but like if you are in game development, it's a good idea to be able to do as many things as possible.
Yeah.
I think Pure would say you definitely succeeded at that because you can
now
code,
he's
you can
better
do
than
art, music.
Oh no, music definitely not.
There's 2 tracks in the original soundtrack that are your creation.
Exactly 2, and they're not very difficult. They're not very complicated. Basically, when we were making the game, I just thought, these 2 tracks, they fit really well in these 2 specific places. And just added them. Like back then, it wasn't so professional. We didn't really have an idea of where the game was heading.
Nick, I heard you about to talk about. He didn't say they weren't good. He said they weren't complicated.
I think they're fine. I don't hate them. It's kind of a standout, I think.
You're always your own worst critic when it comes to these things, so I understand that. But anyway, back to the original point, which what are some of the projects you actually worked on?
All right, tell them about Boss Rush.
Okay, so one of the games that I made before meeting everyone on Fraxi was a game that I just called Boss Rush. which is just like 2D platformer where you just like fought a series of bosses, and between each one you went to like a store where you could buy like stat upgrades. I think I made like 7 before I lost interest.
Tell us about the graphics.
I mean, they were bad. What do you mean?
It was a very functional but plain game. Is how I would describe it.
That would be a good way to put it. But anyway, I showed them that, and I was like, hey, this would be like a good structure for a game. And so we started working on that, and I'd say we made
2. No, 1. we made exactly 1 boss.
So it was a very short boss rush.
So we made a boss that had no attacks, and the joke was that he didn't fight back. And then we made 2 attacks for the second boss, and then stopped working on the game.
No, more than 2, I believe. But like the first boss, for some reason I remember it had a sprite, and that was just like this exclamation box with 1337 in it. I don't remember why.
Oh. Maybe that was a place. No, because the first boss. No, the first boss was a
slime.
It was a big slime, and every time you hit it, it would do damage numbers.
Oh.
And maybe
right.
And then maybe when you killed it, there was the 1337.
You know, that's actually probably true. God, why did we do that?
It was 2010, and that was funny then.
Oh no!
Right, like what?
Oh no! I want to disappear. I want to cease to exist. Remembering that.
Oh, I didn't remember that until you told me. Now, actually, there is one thing that is interesting though. So that first boss was just like this big like king slime thing, like with the damage. It was just a joke because it was like an RPG boss. But the second boss was Tack.
Oh, the original Tack?
That is the original Tack.
Yes.
Before he got his armor?
Yes. It even had all those attacks that the bestiary entry says it doesn't have.
Yeah.
Oh. Was it really like the red looking guy, like after his armor comes off? Is that what it looked like?
Probably not.
No, because it did have this. It did. Every version of Tack still had the gimmick with the 4 plates that split open.
Oh, okay.
So it did still have that.
But this version did have the chainsaw blades, the napalm, the rocklets, and the self-preparing lethalo core.
Maybe. It's lost the time.
And I do believe that the as the joke goes, well, we'll get there. So, but there were then Alex did make 2 versions of Tack in Fraxi.
Mm-hmm.
The first one was just called it was Ceiling Tack originally. So Ceiling Tack Fraxi edition. And then there was Gray Armor.
Yes, the first one was in response to Helsinki, I believe. Just a very simple boss. And the second one was the Gray Armor, and then there was one in unnamed try.
It was Iron Tack Gray Armor, I think, or the other way around.
Probably.
So like, Armor Tech is essentially kind of a long-running in-joke for Team D13.
Kind of is. It's basically a Star Splitter from Hero Core. Is that his right name?
Yeah, that was the name. And actually, so relevant fact, the that version of Tack Gray Armor, that video was actually recorded by Zaro, and the song that he used was from the Near Arrange album. And he named the video after that song, because that song was called the Iron Fist Remix.
Oh.
And that's what the weapon in Star of Providence is named after.
And why it looks so much like Armor Tack's legs.
That is why it's Armor Tack's leg, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Hang on, I'm writing this down onto my my theory board I have on the wall here.
Like, some of it is more, some of it is just in jokes, man.
Yep.
God, it's like I'm watching someone. It's like I'm watching myself, like watching Ebo videos.
So that was Boss Rush.
Well, yeah, so that was Boss Rush. I don't actually remember the order after that very well, because we did a couple other games.
Yes, I believe the next one was Haven.
It probably was Haven. Now, so Haven was a game that also didn't get very far. It was like a action platformer, monochromatic. Everything was like gray, black, and white.
It was done during the TIG Source era. I believe there was a specific TIG Source game that inspired the graphics. It was really pixelated.
Are you sure it wasn't just like HeroCore?
No. It was a very specific game. I don't remember its name now.
Interesting. But yeah, it was like you had a gun that you could switch between a few different things. You had like a basic blaster. There was like a rocket launcher, a flamethrower. I think there were like 5 or 6, but I don't remember all of them.
There was a flamethrower.
I said flamethrower.
There was and a rocket launcher and a normal gun. That I don't remember any others. Perhaps a shotgun.
You know what? You're right. There was definitely a shotgun. So it was probably supposed to end up having like. It was kind of supposed to be like horror-ish, like you were like landing on a planet and everything was like gone to hell.
So the name was ironic.
I remember being like kind of proud of some of the AI, but it's pretty quaint in retrospect.
It's all stepping stones in your journey as a developer.
But when we were preparing this, Alex, remember, it sounds like for every single game we're gonna have the origin of something, and that game is the origin of crawlers.
Ooh. Oh, what? Now we're getting to the juicy stuff.
It was basically a crawler, but instead of firing bullets, it fires a laser.
Yes, so it was like a laser crawler. Oh yeah, now I remember even more vividly. I forgot it was the laser one.
Now Malachi is going to ask for laser crawlers to be added to the game.
Oh, don't worry.
Oh, great.
It's on the list.
On the list.
That's really neat. So crawlers came from Haven.
It's arbitrary. I wouldn't describe it as particularly important. It's just that there was an enemy, he tried to line up with you, and then it fired lasers at you, and it looked exactly like crawlers. Because I don't know, it's a very functional design for that sort of enemy.
But it's cool because as we go through all of these projects, we see, that's where that came from. That's where that came from. It kind of all culminates into Star of Providence.
I wouldn't say culminates as much as it's just that eventually we made a very big game, and then we just had a lot of fun referencing things that we did before.
That's
I think a lot of people do that.
Yes.
I mean, you're kind of reusing a lot of stuff you've already made before. So
see, sometimes it is a conscious effort to reuse things that you've done before. As a sort of form of referencing things you've done. Yeah. And sometimes it's just things that are naturally coming to you. It just feels right to do it this way. And I would say Crawler wasn't specifically made to reference Haven. It just came from the same place.
Yeah.
Right.
No, it makes sense to me because as you're making games, you're using the things you liked from things that worked from past creations.
Well, kind of, but like that is the same with Crawler. It's a pair of flags and a cannon. All it can do is shuffle around on a wall and fire. It's a very simple design.
Yeah.
I'm trying really hard not to talk more about crawlers right now.
So we've done Boss Rush and we've done Haven. There's some other things we could touch upon.
I believe there's Tome, but that is definitely Pure's topic.
Well then, Pure.
So in 2010 or 2011, I was just following a lot of roguelike stuff, and I heard about this game, Tales of Mdle, which was a major roguelike that had been doing really well for the last couple of years. And it was also extremely easy to produce content for, and the lead developer was extremely accepting of content submissions. And so I just started making items for the game. And when all was said and done, I'd probably made like 75% of them.
Yeah, Pure made a lot of artifacts, and it probably works that way because Tome 4 is a very crowdsourced project.
Yeah, historically
like
speaking.
It is. Yeah, like if you have cool ideas, you could go contact Dark God and make things right now.
Make a pact with Dark God.
Yeah, that is exactly how I would describe it. You have no idea.
On a moonlit night.
You do not understand.
He is quite a character.
He is very eccentric.
Huh.
God bless.
Dark God bless.
So, like, would that have been some of after Fraxi, some of the first things that you had done that?
I would not say. I would not say after Fraxi.
I would say during Fraxi.
Okay. So, like, Fraxi was this thing that was going on in the background at the same time that a lot of these other projects were being done. Then.
Well, you see, you're saying was, but Fraxi goes on for as long as people have a desire to do anything for Fraxi. In fact, maybe someday I will make more Fraxi stuff. Who knows? I definitely have plans.
Yeah, but I'm saying in the sense
I
that, well,
don't.
nowadays
Oh.
you're not making Fraxi anymore, so that's for at least Team D13 something that's more of a different era.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
But still, I would say anyone who wants to do Fraxi stuff can do it anytime.
Another one of the things I have written down here is Verheim, and I think that's Alex's thing.
Ah, yeah, right. That's the inverse from pure Tome stuff. Brand is
Oh.
definitely my thing. Basically, once upon a time, I played Humaniki. It was a really fun game. Well, maybe not fun, but it definitely has a place in my heart.
You
And
and
then
Ike.
some, yeah,
Just such an enjoyable romp, Yumanike.
well, it depends. I believe some people really vibe with it, as kids say. And then some time later, I have played a fan game of Humaniki called .flow.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I've learned at that time that Humaniki fan game is basically a genre.
Mm-hmm.
And that game, I have really liked it a lot. It has a strong pull on my soul, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And sometime I just wanted to make a love letter to Humaniki, to .flow, to the whole idea of those games in general. So, since I have had a community at my disposal, I decided to start a forum adventure, which was a thing at the time. Basically, I have started a story, posted some pictures, and then people would post the actions that the story would take, suggestions on what
Oh.
would come next.
Echo Far, this is the best comparison is think something like Homestuck or Problem Sleuth, if you know what that is.
That is exactly what it was like.
If you don't know
And-
what it is, Malachi, bless you.
So, Alex, where did you run that forum adventure, by the way?
Oh, on the UFF forums.
And
first.
then did you end up
And
running it
then-
somewhere else later?
Well, and then I migrated to MCPA forums.
MSPA
The-
forums, the
The
official.
MS Paint adventure.
Yep, that's where Problem Sleuth and Homestuck came
Yep.
from.
Did they? I thought it was just something fans made.
Oh no, right.
Well, no,
There's
that was
the official site and the fan forums.
You started it on the official forums, I believe.
Yes, until they got hacked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rip, I lost so much stuff there as well.
It was fun. There were a lot of really interesting adventures there, and I just tried to run one of them until I could no more. But yeah, until this day, I really hope one day I get to make something that resembles it again.
I have seen like screenshots of some of the art you made there, and I feel like
Oh no, cringe.
okay, fair. Every artist feels that way about some of their early work, but it feels like that's where you start to.
Oh no, I mean it.
I know, but it feels like that's where you start capturing something of your personality as an artist. Like there's something here.
Well, that is inevitable. If you're an artist, then you're going to inject a lot of yourself into your works. And yeah, Varian was definitely a lot like the Alex of 15 years ago. A very different person, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, handheld. Handheld was basically an. Would you say would you say it's an RG? Pure?
Not literally, but kind of. It was like
It was a tie-in.
It was an extremely complicated puzzle for your forum adventure.
Yes, basically the adventure required a puzzle of some sort, and that was the game. You played it, and then if somehow you understood what to do in the game, then you got a code, and you could progress in the game.
So
That is cool.
handheld, which is the origin for a lot of temple things, was originally just like a bit of Verheim.
Yes,
Huh.
exactly. But you gotta understand that the things that have to do with temple were entirely pure stuff.
Yeah.
Ah.
So the temple is a subfloor of Wareheim, which is entirely just an optional secret.
Oh.
Which, to be fair, is also why it's an optional secret in Star of Providence.
That is very cool. I see I see some of these posts on the forums you guys made. Pure, you're like, attempt to use hammer to break door on August 11th, 2012, 8:39 p.m.
Why do you have to do this to them,
when all
man?
you have is a hammer and a door.
Yep.
Oh God! If I ever make a remake of that game, it will be a claw hammer.
Then someone named De Beer says, beat self with hammer until can see in the dark. And Alex, you reply and say, no, why would that come to your mind? You don't want to die.
Yes, 15 years ago.
Yeah, we don't want to dredge up too much of that, but
It's fine. I
it's
deserve
very
to suffer.
interesting.
And
That seems like such a fun idea. I've never played a game like that.
It's not very original, trust me.
it's new to him.
I would love to do something like that on a forum. So if you're ever going to do it again, please let me know.
Well, forums would have to start being a thing again.
Hope springs eternal.
Not really. I wouldn't say that forums are necessary nowadays. It's just that they've been outgrown by Discord and stuff.
Yeah, but I still kind of miss them sometimes.
Oh, but hey, Discord added forums. You can make a forum adventure in Discord.
That's true.
You could. I don't know how that'd go.
I mean, I
same.
feel like it would be the same.
It will be the same, but the problem is forums are a lot easier to search, a lot easier to join, and a lot easier to showcase.
Yeah.
Discord is a lot more self-contained for the communities that inhabit it.
But, you know, if you got people to care about your adventure, you could definitely get people to join a Discord
Yeah,
server.
that's true, but it just doesn't feel right.
I do have written down here Last Fighter D, which I believe is kind of the project that came immediately before Monolith.
It was the big one.
Yes, the collaboration.
Last Fighter D was before handheld, though, for sure.
Oh, okay. But it's the one that resembles Monolith the most, I would feel.
Oh, well, it's a shmup.
Yeah.
That's the resemblance ceases.
But I also that's where some enemies also come from Last Fighter D.
Yep.
Some very important ones, even.
Almost like those two are related.
Yes, almost.
Mm-hmm. And Last Fighter D was the other big collaboration you two had before Monolith.
For sure. So Last Fighter D was it was a standard shmup. We finished the first 2 stages. The plan was for there to be, I guess, 14 stages ultimately, so
Oof.
we were never going to finish.
Yeah.
Oh, well. I guess that is true, but...
I mean, reality has borne out. We did not finish.
Yet.
Yet, okay. So now let's go for the big one. When did Monolith, the game, sort of start being an idea that you guys had?
Okay.
Well, yes, the earliest of Monolith was something that we started conceiving in the early 2010s, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere around the time we were playing Isaac.
It was early 2012.
Yeah.
So Binding of Isaac came out fall 2011.
Mm-hmm.
I played it, and then a few months later, things were percolating, and I was like, I bet I could recreate the room system from Isaac. And then I spent a few days doing that. I made a little ship that was 3 boxes put together, and started floating around this empty maze of rooms. I coded in the doors, which ultimately that code is still in the game today.
Wonderful.
And then a bit later, we started like elaborating on it. We came up with like the idea where you go to floor, there would be a boss.
Yeah.
We came
Well,
up.
that was already decided very early on. We just didn't know how many floors it will be and what exactly we'll be doing. Like, I believe early on we had the idea that there will be a lot more floors, like in double digits.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like that's and like will be danger mechanics that increase every time you went to a new floor.
Well, yeah, because originally, before we came up with the like fixed and pre-built rooms, I actually had coded a system where when you entered a room, it sort of had these like branching paths that it could pick, where it would like build out block arrangements. Where right now you kind of enter a room and you just kind of see it like fade out in front of you.
Yeah.
But originally it would actually like say it would actually make a block in the middle of the room and then it would like expand outward, then it would say put blocks in the corners. So it was this like alternating like chains that it would build. So instead of just being like a fixed layout, it was like these elaborate chains of pre-built pieces. And then it would just spew, and then the idea was it would spew enemies in the room until it had filled up a quota of like danger level.
Okay.
And so as you got further in the game, the danger level would go up. That never really happened because we didn't even end up making enemies by then.
We did not really have a good idea of what we're going to do. We just sort of general idea of like going deeper, danger level, and perhaps some set pieces. Actually, I believe the very first one that we came up with, which didn't really translate to the final game, the way that we planned it was Devourer. Basically, like if Pure remembers.
I only remember the one where it was like a big mechanical thing with rails. So I'm curious what you're thinking of. But yeah, and then eventually we kind of like took a break from that. We ended up coming back a couple years later and gradually developing it into where it ended up now.
Yeah, it was somewhere after Undertale.
It was originally monochromatic. We gave up on that, obviously.
That was almost definitely Hero Core inspired.
So you're saying you stepped away from the development of Monolith at the time, right?
Well, I would not myself. I would say that the development of Monolith has not really begun yet.
Yeah, that was like a seed. So like I prototyped that and kind of set it aside. And then sure, you could say that we put it down, and I usually do, but I guess what Alex is going for is we didn't really start making the game we made until
it was not serious until then.
I see. So that was like the planting of the seed, as it were.
But ultimately, yeah, we went back and we said, what if we took this and we started working on it again?
What if we actually started working on it?
Right. So we revisited it. We took a bunch of stuff that had come out in the meantime, redid the art, came up with the weapon system. Which I was talking with this about Alex before, and I was saying that the fact that on Tome, what I mostly made was like the fixed named artifacts. And I would say that definitely inspired the unique weapons in the DLC. But Tome weapons also kind of inspired the base game weapons too, because non-unique weapons in Tome come with what are called egos, which are like you'd find a sword, but you might find a sword that's like, a sword of fire, and it does fire damage. And you might also get, and they always had like 2 slots for egos, because it could be one before the name and one after the name. So you could have like Warlord's Sword, Sword of Fire, or Warlord's Sword of Fire.
So Tome's weapon system ended up culminating in Monolith's weapons and keyword system.
Yeah, so it inspired that. And that went through a lot of iterations. Like early on in development, I was planning to have it so weapons were just stronger on later floors. And in fact, in a very early version of the game, when you like most over a weapon, it would, sort of like in an RPG, literally just show you a pop-up menu with all of the gun stats. Like,
Oh,
here's the damage, here's how many frames it takes to reload, or maybe it was
God,
seconds.
that was insane.
Here's the ammo, etc. And we took away
we
all of that.
We scrapped it pretty quickly.
To me, that reminds me of like Diablo, where it's like, oh, this enemy dropped a gun, and and is it better than my current one? So you could just compare and then choose to
And
swap.
that is exactly what I was going for. But we decided to go for something a lot sleeker. And like I fought for that. I fought with that for a long time because I really wanted you to be able to compare stats.
Yeah.
And maybe we could have like kept some numbers. I don't know. When you think about it, it's a little weird. It's a little weird that they don't even say like ammo.
Well, yeah, the thing is, like at the very first, it said stuff like how fast did the bullet travel, stuff like that. I thought it was way too many numbers.
Right.
To me, though, I think it would probably work best not to have it in there. But I think that all the players of the game that play Star of Providence a lot have that in like kind of internally, like. Because once you know how the guns work, you're making that comparison like really quickly.
Right.
Well, yeah. I would say it's not so much that players like know the numbers, but they have an instinctive feel for like, okay, if I look at this weapon and these keywords, I kind of have a feeling of like how much damage it'll roughly do, roughly how fast it goes, how much ammo it has. It's more intuitive than analytical. I know weapon X has ammo Y and damage Z. It's just you play with them enough. You have a instinctive evaluation of the power level of weapons, even if you don't have any of the raw numbers in front of you.
Yeah, you're internalizing it.
Yeah. One of these things that led to the decision just that you can't really compare numbers. Like, it's very difficult to see a weapon that says, okay, it deals that much damage, the bullets travel that quick, and the reload time is that quick. You can probably, like this other weapon, it reloads quicker, but you can't really tell how much quicker without actually using it first.
Yeah. So you just be picking, oh, bigger number. That's a bigger number. I need to pick that.
Right.
Yes, like intuition always beats analytical in that case.
And certainly that also made sense when like every Vulcan did not have exactly the same stats, keywords aside. Because the idea would have been, if you got a Vulcan on floor 2, it might deal 17 damage, where on floor 1 it dealt 15 damage, and on floor 3 it'll deal 19 damage. So it's useful to know that, but we scrapped that.
That does feel like it ties into the design goal of like making the player constantly switch out weapons. Like originally it would have been, well, weapons you get later do more damage, whereas here currently it's a different system of like you get benefits for switching, and the weapons are trying to be balanced around you not being able to hold on to them.
Right. Yes, that's something that we, or me specifically, lifted entirely from Downwell.
Well, partly because Downwell did the reward for switching weapons, but it didn't have ammo. Your weapons didn't break in Downwell.
They just had to reload.
Yeah, but we didn't want players to hold onto one weapon. What I really liked in Downwell is the idea that you have to master all of them. And you can't really do that if you find one favorite weapon and have no reason to switch it ever.
Yeah.
Right.
So like that was a core part of the design philosophy, even from very early on. Just like
variety is the spice of life, and one of the truisms that I stand by and always have is how do you put it? Any player, if given the chance, will optimize all of the fun out of a game.
I've heard this quote before. Yes.
Yeah.
And so you must save them from themselves. You must make the correct way to play the game the fun way to play the game.
And that means sometimes withholding information from them.
Well, that's less to do with that. It's not really that having information is less fun. It's just like when you first load up the game, like I'm sure you've watched people play Star of Providence for the first time. It's a pretty intimidating experience.
Yeah.
Imagine if they break their first weapon trove and it's just 10 lines of numbers.
Yeah, that would
every weapon.
It would make them feel like, oh, all of these numbers are important and I need to know what they mean, and I need to be able to use these numbers to determine if a weapon is good or better than this other thing. Whereas now you just tell them this weapon is a fireball or a revolver and does these cool things, and you are kind of encouraging players to make the decision based on, well, that sounds cool, I guess I'll pick that.
Yep, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Even now, nothing gives me more anxiety than watching someone play the game for the first time, and in the floor 1 upgrade terminal, they pick artifact.
Well, you say that, but I think it's exciting.
Yeah, and you can't know the player. Maybe sometimes they'll be like really excited.
It's like, wow, homing, wow, ricochet,
Yeah,
wow, and it's like freezing.
And maybe it drops like,
what does that mean?
And maybe it drops like Excalibur, and they like see this like big sword spewing out particles, and they're like, they look at it and it says Excalibur. They're like, Excalibur, that's probably good, and they take it and they have fun. Yeah,
Just played NetHack before.
Yeah. Only people who played NetHack knows what Excalibur is.
I'm assuming, was NetHack also an influence on this game?
I mean, I'm sure inevitably, but I can't think of anything in particular it inspired.
True.
Well, NetHack might be the reason why I put Excalibur, honestly. Hard to say.
Speaking of design philosophy, you've once said that in Star of Providence, the player should never have something that's useless. Is that something that is a conscious design effort? Is it something that shapes design decisions, something that's difficult to stick to?
Not especially. So that actually sort of came out as a side effect of another thing. Is one of the things we really sought to fix, and maybe in ways that made some of the others unnecessary, but in, say, the Binding of Isaac, there's this big thing where, say you like clear a room and it drops health, and you're at full health, but then like you get to the end of the floor, you fight the boss kicks your ass, and then there's like just a bunch of health laying all over the floor, and you're at like 1 heart out of 6. Well, you're gonna go back and you're gonna pick up all the health, and that is really tedious and boring.
Also, you can't teleport in that game,
right?
By default.
And so, like, maybe it would have been fine if we'd kept that, because I think we probably did that before we added teleporting.
We added it very early on.
We added both of them pretty early on, but I think teleporting was after the.
It was definitely a part of the gameplay decision to not interfere with the pace or flow of the game as much as possible.
I'm gonna say something I almost never say. I actually do think Enter the Gungeon did that better than us.
Really?
Because Enter the Gungeon did the character, right? It's if you leave a room and come back, if you come back right away, it's like the rat steals it. You actually see the rat taking the item and running off with it. And I actually do like that there's like a... Whereas in our game, you walk out of the room and the item just explodes for no reason.
So you're saying that you like that Gungeon has a justification as to why you can't just leave the item and get it later?
Yeah, it's because some guy will steal it.
Well, there is... I mean, there are a lot of potential enemies that could steal items.
Oh, no, they don't get thrown. They just explode. They shatter into a million pieces.
And also, Trader disappears if you come back later. He's just gone.
Yeah, he's not waiting around. He's a busy guy.
The point is you don't get to do those things later. You do them now, or don't do them at all.
But because of that, we wanted it to be, if you clear the room and you're at full health, it doesn't feel like a waste.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like, even if you equip something that you can't use at all, you still get like some money for it. Like, you're at full bombs, well, you pick up a bomb, it just turns into more money, which you can maybe down the line turn it into something else.
Yeah,
but obviously, there are cases where it's not like that. Like, items in shops don't break, because it would be really stupid if you walked into the shop, didn't have money, and are screwed.
Yeah, it is not absolute. It's just made to a point where it doesn't interfere with the game. Like, crates exist, but that's fine.
Right. But I also really like that, like, opening the weapon trove is a commitment.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
if you know how it works.
yeah, it does. It's one of those things where if you watch beginner players, some beginner players feel like they see the weapon show up, like, oh, I have to break it now, and they don't realize, wait, I can come back later when I'm low on ammo, and then get it then, as opposed to getting it the instant you see the thing.
Well, there's an excitement to it. It's like it is a little loot box, right? It's like, oh, what am I gonna get?
What am I gonna get?
A weapon?
Yes, but which one,
what
Alex?
weapon?
But which
There's
flavor?
so many.
A key?
Which seasonings?
That's true. It could also be a key. But that just turns it into another mystery. It turns into another exciting mystery.
Mm-hmm.
Well, without revealing any of the upcoming updates, I wanted to ask what have been some of the most exciting things to develop and implement in Star of Providence over the years for each of you?
That isn't stuff that from the update that would require spoiling.
Well, the easy answer is always the bosses.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. You've been
Gotta
making
be.
boss fights for over a decade.
Right, but like for me personally, actually, it would probably be various menu systems. I really like them.
And for me, it would actually be the weapons.
Okay.
I mean, you've done the weapon system like 3 times over the course of the game's history at this point.
Well, I'm not just talking about the weapon systems, though. I'm actually talking about one of my favorite things is making a new weapon. Like recently, this was for the update, but it's one that's been spoiled. Like I had a lot of fun making Stinger and like all the different
I'm so
combinations.
excited to use Stinger.
It's good. It's
like,
real good.
Yeah, because like there's so many like little touches with that weapon. It was a lot of fun. The first complicated weapon that went into the game would have been Razor, and that was pretty early on. Like that was actually the last weapon added to the base game, right?
The last of the original 7.
Yeah, because then after that was after the end, which added Pulsar, Thunderhead, Spear, Railgun, Drill,
Runic.
Runic
as a weapon for the character, let's say.
You guys all played Super Smash Bros. Melee, right?
No.
No?
You've
I
never
did not.
played Melee? Not even on like emulator?
No.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
Jeez.
I have played Melee.
I am a 64 person.
I realized like when I saw the Stinger teaser, it gives me this like visceral thrill because I loved playing Mewtwo in Super Smash Bros. Melee, and whenever he had an item, it was like floating in front of him with his psychic power, and like I love that so much with Stinger. I'm like, oh, that's badass.
You don't feel that way about Razor?
Oh, I feel that way about Razor too. Razor is my favorite.
What about Sacred Arms?
Okay, guys. Yes, I feel that way about all of them. I was just specifically saying Stinger.
Weapons.
I think it's because Stinger looks like the beam sword from Melee. Anyway, sorry, random tangent.
But yeah, Stinger was a lot of fun to design.
Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of the new uniques are a lot of fun to use.
I've really liked trying to come up with. There's like you can kind of break up the unique weapons into like a few different genres where it's like base weapon with weird keywords, flashy super weapon. But my favorites are the ones that are
tricky,
completely change the way you have to play the game.
Well, you describe it to me as like weapons that are almost sort of a mini game in themselves, how to use them.
And so like Stinger is one of those. Zephyr is a good one of those. Atomica is one of those.
Visitor's Echo.
Yeah, Visitor's Echo.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not that many, and they're really hard to make. White Death would be another one.
Oh yeah, Detonator perhaps would be another one.
Kind of.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to try shoot. You can kind of do no brain Detonator, and it's mostly fine.
So besides the bosses, do you guys have a favorite enemy or mechanic in the game?
So my favorite enemy has always been Soul Extractor.
Ooh.
And that
sheer
was
power.
Yeah, and so I actually made that. So this is one that had a sort of a specific inspiration, not really in any particular way. But I wanted the enemy that was like you see it and you are immediately know you're in trouble.
Yeah,
And
an oh shit moment.
The specific inspiration, the thing that I wanted to emulate was actually the Kamato Annihilator from EG.
From what now?
From EG, which is an old action game by Daniel Remar, made from like 2008. Inspired quite a few things in the game. Because it's also the origin of the genocide weapon.
Oh.
Which is called the Massacre in that game. One of my favorite games of all time. I know Alex, everyone on the team is definitely aware of it.
Oh,
you've played it, right?
I like it a lot, and it has inspired a number of things in my life.
Yeah, EG is a really, really good game. Highly recommend.
No, yeah, that's cool. What about you, Alex? Do you have an answer?
Oh, same developer as HeroCore, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I mostly like enemies that are simple, but also play off of other enemies very well. I would probably say Crawler or Hermits then.
Hell
They're
yeah.
very simple enemies, but like they have unique behaviors.
you said Crawler.
Speaking Malachi's language.
I'm like, yeah.
Who doesn't like crawlers?
Yeah.
They crawl.
I know you said again referencing the STG Weekly interview that I listened to, you do like kind of the cutesy, like I never knew if that was intentional, but after I listened to that interview I was like, oh, Alex is very aware of like you like the cuteness of these enemies as well.
Yeah.
He drew them.
Oh,
yeah, I mean, I certainly do. I'm a very big fan of the Kirby's Dream Land tree, and like the Dark Matter trilogy in general. I think there's a certain art to making things that are cute and transition into being kind of scary.
Yeah, it's a very the game does a very good job balancing the cutesy stuff with the stuff that's more sinister. When you feel like they go from like, oh, cute ghosts and crawlers to a machine, which is like, what the fuck is that?
I don't necessarily want to shock people with that. It's just that there's a certain juxtaposition of the fun adventure you're having and the serious stuff that's lurking in the game's lore.
Oh, I think Malachi has some questions about the game's lore for you.
So many. I mean, the lore and world building of Star of Providence, to players, to a lot of the fans in the community, it feels like it has a really impressive amount of depth and thought put into it. How did the idea for the game's story first come to you guys?
Right. So back in 2012, there wasn't really much of a story beyond the general gist of just going deeper and things get more dangerous. And beyond that, I just kind of started coming up with a story about 2015, 2016, just the general idea of who you are and what you are doing. But really, it started off with the feeling of what it is rather than the granular details of the setting.
Like the general vibe that you wanted to get across.
Yes, it's really simple things like, oh, you need to go deeper because surface is barren. You need more energy. So you're diving into this thing that has a lot of technology. And the idea is you're starting from something that is very cold to something that's very hot. So maybe level 1 is very blue and the final level is very red, to emphasize that. Very simple things. And then beyond that, the story just kind of formed bit by bit out of the justifications of why are you doing that, what is actually happening. And from there on, it just spiraled out of control.
In a good way.
That's hard to say.
But was the story something that was like a team effort, a collaboration, or was it mostly just you doing your thing?
I say I'm doing a lot of thinking on the metaphorics of the story, while Pure and Flan added a lot of interesting detail to the setting.
So like you are kind of painting in broad strokes the general feeling, and then Pure and Flynn are like, well, let's focus on little things that flesh that out further.
Well, it's somewhat different. I would say I am responsible for the metaphysics of the setting, while Fan and Pure, they're like, oh, there are these characters that are doing these things in these places. And I'm thinking, how am I going to write something around that?
And has that story changed over time in either like the big metaphysical level or in like the smaller moments and smaller details, or has it stayed pretty consistent?
Both, definitely.
Okay.
There have definitely been quite a lot of changes. The big important things have stayed the same, but overall the story has changed quite a lot.
Does the team discuss the story when you're making design decisions?
I mean, it's definitely important, yeah, because we don't want to like contradict things.
Yeah.
Obviously, yeah. So we definitely keep like the lore things heavily in mind, but it's not really like part of the reason why we keep the game so vague is to avoid running into problems with that. Because like,
sure.
And the other part is just that if you are having too many rules, then it becomes difficult to make things that are just fun.
You want to keep it open-ended for yourself to then add whatever it is you'd want to add to it later.
Oh, that doesn't really matter. If they want something fun, I will add it.
Yeah.
Because because of us three, I'm definitely the most no fun allowed person. God, if only you knew the power of it's funny that they are constantly telling me about.
I mean, what other reason is there to do anything?
There has been like comments and jokes about some kind of like lore Bible that the team has. Is that like a real thing, or like are there like documents that detail so many juicy bits that we just don't get to hear about?
Oh, Alex doesn't let us read those.
What are you talking about? I have sent you several. No, there's a bunch of text documents that I have made and sent to them, but not too many. I prefer to just talk to them about it.
Okay, you're being secretive even to them. I see.
Oh no, it's not really being secretive. I just find it really difficult to put things to paper. It doesn't really express things that well.
So there's kind of that's interesting to me because there's kind of a nebulous. The story is a little bit nebulous to the team as well, in that you guys don't want to fill in all the blanks.
That's just a joke that I've been making for a while. Like people, like Flan or Pure will go to lore discussions and then they will tell things, and I will be chuckling from the background.
So interesting. So this is like twice removed. So Pure was doing that when he listened to the Rampant Speculation episode to me, and then you're doing that to Pure.
Oh yeah, I told you, there's layers.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, I misunderstand stuff all the time.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I think that has really worked in the game's favor because for the people in the community that like the lore, like it just makes it endlessly fun to talk about and to think about. And, I think it'll continue to serve the game really well as it releases on Switch and receives a broader audience.
An important thing I'd like to say is just that there is no wrong way to discuss the story of the game or just the lore. People may be looking at the same thing, a lot of people, but all of them are seeing something different, and that's fine.
Absolutely.
So you enjoy the speculation even if it's completely off base.
No, I don't. That doesn't matter. But that doesn't
matter.
You're okay with other people enjoying it, but you don't enjoy it.
Yes.
Jeez. I'm just curious, but like, was there a lot of concern or consideration over how you would combine the genres of like a roguelike and a shmup? Was it something that was like, was it even a conscious design goal to try and put these things together? Was it more just, we're just doing what we like and whatever comes out, comes out?
I would probably say it's more of the latter than the former. A lot of just, there's things that we like and we like to emulate them. And then they just kind of work out because, you're trying to make things that are fun.
Yeah.
I guess I'm like interested in seeing like, how much Fraxi influenced, well, Fraxi and stuff like it influenced the game, and like seeing all of these things come together, and if there was like almost an ulterior design like objective here, but it was more just whatever, we'll just do what we like.
Well, if we're talking about shmups in general, then I would say Fraxi is just one of them. There's stuff like Hellflicker, there's Red and Silver Gun, there's the entire Skane Skane trilogy. There's a lot of shmups that influenced Monolith in the end. I would say that it was important for me that it is as much as a shmup as it is a roguelike.
That there was a good balance struck between those genres.
Well, I'd say more than the balance, it's important that it's using the strengths of both of those genres. That, like, ultimately what we try to do is that it is very skill-based, which is not necessarily something that is a trait of an Isaac-like.
I mean, that answers why I am so much more drawn to this game than Isaac. It feels like I am going to be rewarded for doing well, and it's not going to be just left to, luck, whether or not I'm going to have a good time here.
Well, that depends.
I mean, that's just how I feel.
The point was that, like, having played Gungeon, it was very important to me that even if you just have a pea shooter, you can still win.
Because power is internal.
No, that's the other one.
Oh, yeah. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, like I'd say Monolith is ultimately a melting pot of a lot of things that we liked. Many, many, many things, really. Which are all basically 10 to 15 years old now. So it's fun to reminisce on them. And it's easy to do through the game, but...
All right. Well, maybe in the future when we get Flan, we can all talk about Fraxi and all of that good stuff.
Hey, don't forget about Garo.
Well, we've already had Garo on the show once, but
well,
but
always
also
welcome
like,
back.
if then it's like, oh, Malachi has to edit a 6-person conversation.
Oh, I'm fine with that.
I mean,
cool.
If you're gonna do one, it should be that one.
Yeah, no, for
I
sure.
mean, we could do like the big season 2 finale is the entire dev team getting here and talking about Fraxi, because I feel like they would also have a lot of stories to tell.
Yeah, I mean that's legitimately interesting, for me. And you guys made a comment on the SCG. I mean, sorry, I reference that a lot because that's like the only interview that I know of that you guys have done. But you guys specifically said, like, someone said, like, oh, we should do a whole episode on Fraxi, and you guys were like, yes, we would love to talk about Fraxi in incredible depth and detail. And so I heard that and was like, oh, I would love to hear about that. So we can do that at some point.
I mean, would it make sense to have Flan on an episode about Fraxi, Alex? I mean, does he have any Fraxi bosses?
Well, technically, kind of.
I'm certainly not aware of any that are available.
Yeah.
Man, if Flynn hears this episode,
don't worry, we'll make sure he does.
Yes, we'll force him to.
Excellent. Very glad to hear that.
He deserves it.
I'll send him the YouTube clips of all our dunks.
Thanks so much for listening to our Star of Providence fancast. Big thanks as always to Garoslaw for allowing us to use his music and sound effects, and also Alex, because there are 2 songs on the soundtrack that we have not acknowledged until this episode. Sorry, Alex.
So you can find the albums with all of Garo's and 2 of Alex's songs over at Bandcamp, the base game soundtrack, the Relics of the Past soundtrack, and the 5th Anniversary Edition soundtrack. Once again, thank you so much to Alex and Pure, the developers, for being here with us and indulging us.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate you making time to come onto the podcast. If you have any comments or suggestions for the show, you can reach out to us on our Discord server. We'll post the server link in the show notes.
And there you will find fellow pilots to talk with and discuss the show. Thanks for listening. We'll hope you'll join us next time.
This is what you came for, isn't it?
So be it.